target for today is Ankman. Specifically, you are to destroy the Arado factory. This plant manufactures aircraft components, principally wing and tail assemblies for the Focke-Wulf 190s. The parts are then shipped to New Brandenburg for assembly. I cannot stress upon you too much the importance of this target. If it is successfully destroyed, it will have a very serious effect on Germany's aircraft production.
Wars have been fought since the beginning of time. As the centuries have passed, the weapons to fight them have become more and more deadly, from clubs and knives to spears, swords and arrows, from flintlocks and lines of men face to face to automatic rifles that shoot fast and far, from little cannons to really big ones that shoot miles. In 1903, the Wright brothers created a game changer, the war game changer, the airplane. Only a dozen years later, Allied and German pilots were flying over the battlefields of Europe, hand-dropping little bombs from their open cockpits. Trench warfare to tactical bombing. In World War I, the Germans even flew 50 bombing raids over England. Airships, Zeppelins. They were easy targets for British guns, but those German raids foreshadowed the Battle of Britain 25 years later in World War II. The British prevailed then too, and it was a turning point in World War II. Billy Mitchell commanded American air combat units in Europe in World War I. After the war, he advocated in Washington for more air power, put money in planes and aircraft carriers, and less in big ships. Air power would be the future. He was totally denied. In fact, he was court-martialed for insubordination and resigned from the Air Service. After his death, he was exonerated and highly honored. He is the only person to have an aircraft design named after him, the B-25 Mitchell bomber. He is only one of 2 aviators to have a life-size statue standing in the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. The other, recently placed, is of Bob Hoover, the aviator General Jimmy Doolittle called the greatest stick and rudder pilot ever. During the years after World War I, the 1920s and 30s, a big airplane design barreled forward. New planes were capable of flying farther and higher with heavy bomb loads. In World War II, these planes delivered devastating attacks behind enemy lines. More than 12,000 B-17s were built for the war. The Flying Fortress, as it was called, was the workhorse of the European theater, executing precision, daylight, strategic attacks over Germany. With fighter escorts flying from England in giant daytime formations, the 8th Air Force Armada attacked factories and cities, fuel supplies, dams, and transportation, crippling Germany's morale and ability to make war. B-17s dropped more bombs in World War II than any other Allied aircraft. But there were great costs, too, especially human costs. 8th Air Force Airmen had more than 49,000 casualties, including 26,000 deaths.
During that particular period, everyone, we pretty well realized that we weren't going to make it. Only about 1 out of 4 ever made it. If you got over 10 missions, you were living on borrowed time. And everybody realized that.
Our fighter group would be three squadrons. One would be maybe a high one would be one side or another side. And I saw one case where a plane got hit and banged over into adjacent plane, and the two planes go down. And we were always supposed to see, if we saw a plane go down, say, how many chutes did you see come out? So we would watch. But this place, the two planes went down and no chutes came out. And there's 22 guys are going, no chutes coming out. I'd sit off on it and wonder how in the heck did they get those guys go through that time after time again. How did they get those fellows to do that?
B-17 crews were a major force in destroying Nazi Germany's plan to take over Europe. All who love and respect freedom owe those men a debt of gratitude for committing their lives to protecting our freedoms.